Hey guys, how's it going? Stabman coming back at you once again, and today I have a special video for you because for the first time in months, I finally had the chance to go back to Half Price Books outlet in my old neck of the woods, which is now fairly more difficult to get to because it's quite a ways away. You know what I mean? So it just feasibly doesn't make much sense to go there every weekend now. You know what I mean? So because of that, I just haven't been able to actually warrant going out that often. Now it's more of like a fun little activity that I do when there's a sale every few months. I think is reasonable. You know, because I enjoy going to Half Price Books outlet and trying to find some good deals. So why the heck not make it a something that you do every now and then just for fun? You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be something to do every week anymore. I'll miss doing it every week, but it's not something that's feasible for me to do every week anymore, obviously. So I'll just leave it as the once in a while thing that it will be now. But either way, I was very glad to be able to go this weekend because they had a dollar sale. Everything was $1. So I wanted to see what they had. Unfortunately, they did not have any. Well, they had like a few Blu-rays, but nothing that I was interested in. And I talked to the guy, actually, one of the guys at the counter, and he said when he got in earlier in the day, they were lined up around the block for this particular sale. So the word about Half Price Books outlet, if it wasn't out before, it's definitely out now. And I have no doubt that they were probably stacked full of Blu-rays at the start of the day, and just those probably immediately went. So what are you going to do? One thing I keep holding out hope for is that I'll randomly find a copy of Predator on DVD, which I really only wanted on DVD because the Blu-ray is, looks disgusting. It's one of the worst transfers on Blu-ray ever. So I don't want the Blu-ray. I just want the DVD. But I don't want to pay $1 billion freaking dollars, or even more than like $5 for the DVD, because quite frankly it's been so mass produced at this point that it doesn't make sense to pay a lot of money for it, because there's so many copies of it out there that it's like there's got to be way more supply than demand at this point. It doesn't make sense to pay a lot of money, or even like a $5 amount for something like that. It should be something more like $1 or $2, but I never see it anywhere. I never even see it new anywhere anymore. I don't know why. I guess everybody who has that DVD loves it, cherishes it, and will not get rid of it, but whatever. Either way, I hold out hope that one day I will find a copy of Predator on DVD that I can get for a decent price. Maybe at Half Price Books, maybe somewhere else. We'll see. Either way, I found 7 items here. It came to a total of $7, and 5 of them were DVDs, but 2 of them were not. I'm going to start off with the ones that were not DVDs. So first off here, we have the soundtrack for Pleasantville, which you may recall I picked up from Half Price Books outlet either earlier this year or last year at some point, and then I got around to actually watching the DVD, and I realized that even though I wasn't really a huge fan when I was younger, watching it now I love so much about the movie. And that's why I'm almost to the point where I want to get the Blu-ray, but I don't want to get the Blu-ray that's currently out because it is not the best possible quality of a Blu-ray that could be put out for a movie of this quality. So I just keep holding out hope that they're going to actually put out like a criterion of this movie. But either way, when I saw this soundtrack sitting there, I couldn't say no. There's a lot of great music in this movie, not the least of which is Fiona Apple's version of Across the Universe, which great freaking version of the song. But it's also If you have seen the music video, it's a fantastic music video. I was actually surprised by how good the music video was for that particular song. But this also has Randy Newman's Suite from Pleasantville. It also has Let Me Be Your Teddy Bear, Elvis Presley, 60 Minute Man, which I remember mostly from like the Fallout games, honestly. It's got Buddy Holly, it's got Miles Davis. There's just a bunch of great classic music on this particular soundtrack. So for $1, I really wanted to add to my Pleasantville collection, if you will. So now I have the DVD and the soundtrack. If they never put out a Criterion that I would like to see, then oh well, at least I have the movie on the DVD and I have the soundtrack, and eventually I would probably end up picking up the DVD or the Blu-ray copy as well. But yeah, either way, very, very happy to have gotten that for such a good price. So yeah. Next up, I found a book that I actually got for my nieces and nephew. I don't know how much they're actually going to enjoy it. Some of them seemed like they didn't care, and others were like, oh, that's kind of interesting, but they weren't really like wowed by it or anything. But when I saw it and looked into it, I thought it was pretty cool. So I see this sitting on the shelf, and I'm like, that looks pretty interesting. I've never seen anything like that before. It looks like a nice proper book, and even if you look at the side here, it's got that, proper book feel to it. I guess the choice of font could have been better, but otherwise, really, really cool bookend here. And the pages, I also noticed the pages here, if you can see, they're kind of ridged. I love books that do that. That's just a nice attention to detail. But, there's nothing on the back here to tell you what it is. And there's really nothing on the front here other than nightstand reader to tell you what it is. I'm just like, what even is this? So, of course, I open it up, I look into it, and I find out that it's actually a collection of short stories, poems, and plays, and even some speeches. Like, it's got Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, It's got the I Have a Dream speech from Martin Luther King Jr. It also, though, has Oh Mistress Mine, William Shakespeare, The Raven, Edgar Allan Poe. It's got another Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart. Yeah. One that I thought was really cool to see in here because, well, it's one of my favorite short stories from Americana, is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It's always nice. But I mean, they've got works in here from James Joyce, Emily Dickinson, William Blake, Mark Twain, T.S. Eliot. There's even a short story from from Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Speckled Band. There's some H.G. Wells stories in here, A.A. Milne. It's just like a treasure trove of great short fiction. And I felt like, I know in particular that my nephew, well, he's in like 5th grade, so I don't think, there are some things in here that maybe he would be a little bit too much for him in terms of like the wordage that they use, and he might not be able to understand everything in it. Who knows? I'm sure he probably would be able to, but he has to read quite a bit for homework. They make him read for like 30 minutes a night or something like that. And sometimes that means reading a book and just doing like a little synopsis of what he read of the book for that night. And I thought, well, if you're doing that kind of stuff, reading for 30 minutes a night, you really should be reading like short stories and stuff like that. So I find this, it's got a bunch of short stories, it's got a bunch of poems, short poems at that, and classic ones too. I tell you what, if he just reads some of these and writes up his thoughts about those and gives those to his teacher, and his teacher sees that he's been reading some of the classics, some of the stuff that he's going to end up reading in literature classes 2, 3, 4 years from now, if not further out, yeah, I think that'll reflect well on him. I think his teacher will appreciate that. And yeah, I can thereby give him an appreciation of some of the greats, if you will. But I also liked it as well, just simply because it looked cool. It includes a lot of like my favorite short stories and short fiction and whatnot. Not only like, there's a lot of Americana in here, I think, and it has stuff like William Shakespeare. It has some stuff from writers who aren't American, but the large majority of the writers in this particular book are American. And one of the things I studied in school was American short fiction. So I'm all over this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was really impressed when I saw this sitting on the shelf, and I thought, for $1, that's a pretty good deal right there. Really nice looking book, got the nice, ridged pages there, and just a boatload, a literal boatload of excellent short fiction. So can't go wrong there. Very cool. Now, getting into the DVDs, next up I found South Park Season 6 on DVD, which actually gives me the first 7, I believe. I had 1 through 5 and then 7, so I needed 6 to fill in the last gap there so that I would have all 1 through 7, and here it is. I finally have it. And I've been holding off on getting this one on Amazon because I've seen it on Amazon and I've thought, well, maybe I should pick it up because it's an okay price on there. But at the same time, I was like, I just know, I've got a feeling that I'm going to find this for a better price somewhere else. And sure enough, $1. And it's got like a little bit of flared edges here and there, but the discs are in immaculate condition. The inside packaging here, as you can see, is in pretty much immaculate condition. It's in really good condition. So yeah, I had to go ahead and go for it because, $1 to fill out your collection, and now I have the first 7 seasons of South Park on DVD. That's pretty cool to me. I know some people will say, but you can watch South Park online anytime you want to. And what I would say to that is, sometimes your internet goes out. And what if you just want to pop something in and watch something when all you have is your power and nothing else? Like, you have your power, you've got a TV, you've got a DVD player. This is where this comes in handy, people. And it's happened to me, where the internet's gone out for the night and it's just not coming back on for like a half hour goes by, and it's apparent that it's not going to be back on for a while. Well, let's just pop in a DVD and watch something before I go to bed. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, DVDs still come in handy. Blu-rays, physical media still comes in very handy to me. And when I can pick up one of my favorite shows, some of the earlier seasons, not necessarily very early at this point, but still somewhat early, and pick up an entire season for $1, very cool stuff. Very, very cool stuff. Next up, I decided to pick up Frequency here for $1 on DVD. I know it's available on Blu-ray, but I didn't know if it was something... I knew that I liked it from back when I watched it the first time, right? But I didn't know if it held up after all these years, you know what I mean? So because of that, I decided to go ahead and get the DVD first, try it before I buy on Blu-ray, and it was actually, this DVD copy is in really nice condition. Looks like whoever had it just barely ever touched it, barely ever used it. And it actually looks like one of the earlier releases of the movie too. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And what I recall liking the most about this movie, of course, is the kind of sci-fi aspect of it, like the whole time travel almost aspect to it. Guys talking to his son in the future through his radio. It's just crazy. This crazy concept that you wouldn't have thought would work, but somehow it worked. Or that's at least what I recall it being actually pretty good. We'll see. I'll go back and visit it now and see how I feel about it now. And if I still like it quite a bit, then I'll probably end up picking up the Blu-ray. But again, the case with the Blu-ray is that it's not exactly out there. It's not exactly easy to find. And when you do, it's not usually for like an excellent price. So might as well at least have the DVD for $1, and then hopefully, eventually, I can get the Blu-ray for a decent price if I end up still liking it. Next up, I found Made, which is a Jon Favreau movie. You might remember Jon Favreau from, well, Iron Man. He's worked on a lot of the, I don't want to say a lot of the, but I do want to say like at least a couple of the Marvel movies that have come out in recent memory. And he's a notable actor slash director in the film industry. And I saw this DVD recently on store shelves. Oh, maybe not recently. It was a couple of years ago at this point that I saw it on store shelves, and I thought, I've never heard of this movie. I've never seen it before. And it's a Jon Favreau movie that I've never heard of or seen. Well, I've got to change that. But at the time, the price that I saw it was kind of a little higher than what I wanted to pay for it. And ever since then, whenever I come across it, it's always like the DVD is in crap shape and would never play ever again. So I never pick it up. Well, finally found a copy where the DVD was in good shape. So I decided to pick it up for $1. Now I can finally check it out and see if it's worth the $1 that I paid for it. I figured Jon Favreau, he's a good director. He's a notable name in the industry. Let's check out some of the earlier work that he did. This is 2001, and it at least looks pretty cool. It looks pretty interesting. We'll see. But either way, didn't pay too much for it, so whatever. Next up, I literally picked this up sight unseen because I had never heard of it before, and it sounded interesting. Starring Rob Lowe and Bill Paxton and Randy Travis, we have Frank and Jesse, the story of Frank and Jesse James. And this looks like an interesting Western that I never even knew existed, from the 90s apparently, when they didn't really do a lot of Westerns. At least it looks like it's from the 90s. Yeah, 1998. Trimark Home Video. I've never seen or heard of this before in my entire life, but it looked interesting, and of course it's one of those cases where the names kind of sold me on it. First of all, whenever I see a movie out in the wild that I've never heard of before, and I've never even seen out in the wild before, I pretty much on instinct pick it up, especially if it's a really good price. Even if I don't have a chance to look it up, which I didn't this time, I did not have a chance to look it up. I tried to in the store, but just the internet was not working with me. So I just said, you know what, screw it. It's a good price, I'll just pick it up and hope for the best. Sure enough, this isn't like a really rare title, but it is something that, you know, you don't see very often. It's pretty cheap to come by. You can get it for like between, like just for a few bucks, honestly, on Amazon. But either way, I was happy to be able to find this in the stores. I don't know if it's actually going to be very good. I looked it up on IMDb, and it had somewhat meh ratings. I'm not too surprised. There weren't many Westerns that came out of the 90s that really got good ratings. Maybe this is a hidden gem, or maybe it's just a meth movie from the 90s that just so happens to star Rob Lowe, Bill Paxton, and Randy frickin' Travis. I don't know. We'll see. It was an oddity. I had to pick it up simply because it was an oddity. And speaking of oddities, last but not least, the last DVD that I ended up picking up here, By Dawn's Early Light. Have any of you heard of this movie? I had no idea that this movie even existed. And it actually came brand new factory sealed. It was brand new factory sealed, sitting on the shelf for $1. And it stars, if you can see here, Powers Booth, Rebecca De Mornay, James Earl Jones, and that's probably the big name that really sold me on it, but then Martin Landau as well. And then I turn around in the back and I'm trying to see, well, who made this movie? What is this movie? Who directed it? And I couldn't find, it was very hard to tell from the back here exactly who directed it. The line here that they have is not really well directed by Jack Shoulder, whoever the heck that is. But what really got me here was the HBO video. I was like, oh, so it's an HBO movie? 90s, I believe. This is like a 90s movie. 1990, in fact. Like early 90s. Sure enough, it was a straight to HBO, straight to cable, I guess, TV movie. It was a TV movie. Thank you, Brian. Made for HBO early on, before they really even got into making movies. And from what I looked up on IMDb, it actually has a really good score, like a 7.1 or something like that. So I'm glad that I picked this up, but I'm also glad because you look on Amazon, and although it's not really super expensive or hard to find, it's not exactly, you know, $1 is a good deal on it. I'll say that. To get it brand new for $1 is a good deal on it. And of course, not something you see every day. So again, as an oddity, I kind of had to pick it up. When I see James Earl Jones, Powers Booth, Martin Landau on the cover here, and I read the synopsis and it's talking about nuclear war, and I see HBO video there, like an early HBO video logo. I mean, come on. You can't tell me your interest wouldn't be piqued. And granted, it's 4:3 only here, but I could tell this was a 90s movie, and I had a feeling that it was like made for HBO. Obviously it's HBO video here. So if it's made for HBO in the 90s, then it's gonna be 4:3. Chances are a widescreen version doesn't even exist, and sure enough, you go on IMDb, the aspect ratio is listed as 4:3. So yeah, there's no other way to get it, guys. And it looked interesting. It sounds crazy. Nuclear war, a nightmare that may become grim reality for the world in this riveting thriller. When a fanatical group opposed to friendly U.S.-Soviet relations explodes a nuclear missile over a Russian city, it begins a chain reaction of accusations and actions that begin the groundwork for World War III. You know, given all the crap that's been going on in the real world today, kind of prescient to find something like this sitting on the shelf that you'd never heard of before, that came out in 1990 and was straight to HBO TV movie. What? And it stars James Earl Jones? What? Like, that's crazy. And I believe, wasn't he also in, I swear he was in Doctor Strangelove, right? So, kind of interesting that he's in two kind of doomsday-ish-esque movies. So, yeah, I had to check that out. I had to get this. I don't regret this one at all. This is actually, I think, one of my favorite pickups. It's just like, didn't have any idea what it was. It just looked really interesting. Piqued my interest. And I'm glad I got it. Especially considering it's brand new. It was factory sealed. So I had to take off all the stickers, and like all those early DVD cases, it had one up top with the security thing up top and on the side and on the bottom. So it was just like peeling off stickers for days, but worth it. Very, very glad to have this now in my collection, and all of the other DVDs that I managed to find. Sadly, that's it. I didn't find anything else there, but I think honestly it's because, like the guy said, a lot of people got there really early and probably stacked up on all the good stuff before I even got the chance to see what else there might have been. So I'm lucky to have found the stuff that I did. You know what I mean? And I think I made some pretty good deals. I got some pretty good deals. So yeah, either way, like even if I didn't come away with a whole bunch of stuff, like 50 different items to talk about, like used to be the case with Half Price Books Outlet, I'm still very happy simply because, again, it's a rare occurrence for me to be able to go to Half Price Books Outlet anymore. So it's really more like a fun thing to me too. Now it's just like I don't just go there to get good deals. I go there because I have fun shopping at this store. So yeah. With that said, that'll do it for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you later. Peace.